Thank you, Tony, for that beautiful, heartful introduction. Welcome, everyone, to our February 2026 Chartres Community Call as we begin our preparations for the final pilgrimage to Chartres as part of the Chartres Academy that was founded 21 years ago. And as I was reflecting on this session and this pilgrimage coming up, I was reminded of the immortal words of T.S. Eliot in the Four Quartets that the end of all our exploration shall be to arrive at where we started and know the place for the first time. And those words are very true about our 21 years in Chartres. And so I thought I would take a moment as we begin today, both by way of framing Andrew Harvey, who will be speaking to us in a little bit, but also just to remind us as an act of remembrance how this all began. It was 21 years ago this month, actually, just a few days ago on St. Bridget's Day, on the 2nd of February, that I was inaugurated in as president of what became known as Ubiquity University. I had been directed and guided into the university through Pila, Colorado, who most of you know, elder and shaman woman of the Iroquois, Oneida Nation and Celt Nation. And she said to me that I would only succeed in my tenure if I dedicated my presidency to the divine feminine, and in particular, the Black Madonna and Mary Magdalene. And she recommended 21 years ago this month that the first thing that we should do is put together a pilgrimage to France to visit the Black Madonna in Roc Amador and to retrace the steps of Mary Magdalene, who by tradition, after the passing of Jesus, went to Alexandria, where she wrote what is now known as the Gospel of John. And then from there, with Joseph of Arimathea, went to France, where she lived out her days, teaching and healing the people of that country. So we consulted with Andrew Harvey, who was a faculty at the university, and Apila and Andrew and I put together a pilgrimage. Both of them had been to Chartres. They'd been to France. They had been on the journeys of Mary Magdalene so that they knew the itinerary. And with about, I think, 40, 45 of us in total in October of that year, we went to France. And it was out of that journey when we got to Chartres. And Andrew and I reading The Golden Age of Chartres by Rene Carido, and realizing that the next year was 2006, marked the 1000th anniversary of the founding of the original Chartres Academy by Fulbert in 1006, 1,000 years ago, where he brought to Chartres one of the few extant copies of Plato's Timaeus, one of the dialogues of Plato, and created the Chartres Academy, which brought to their highest resplendence the seven liberal arts. So beginning in 2006, to mark the 1000th anniversary of the founding of Chartres, we established the new Chartres Academy. And year by year, we've delved into one of the liberal arts. So what we're coming up to this August is the final liberal art of 3 cycles. That's what we agreed to do back in 21 years ago. We thought, let's see if we can do 3 cycles. It would take us 21 years. And at that time, we couldn't even imagine 21 years into the future. And here we are. Everything that has gone on in Chartres, the holiness, the turbulence, the fun, the depth of spiritual torment and enlightenment and breakthrough and breakdown. We have seen it all, my friends, in Chartres over the last 21 years. And so we decided that we would dedicate, when Banafsheh and I were contemplating how should we bring this to a close. Obvious. An adoration of the mother, of Mary Magdalene, of the Black Madonna. Because while we're going to be there this August, on the 15th, is the Feast of the Assumption, commemorating when Mother Mary ascends into heaven, and the Black Madonna is paraded in the streets, and Mary Magdalene is elevated in the spirits of the pilgrims. So this upcoming pilgrimage is going to be profound at levels that I can't today really imagine. But we want to invite all of you, particularly in our time of chaos and uncertainty and turbulence and upheaval, to do one of the most important things we can do to deepen our internal equilibrium. And that is to make pilgrimage together to Chartres in an adoration of the sacred feminine as it's refracted through the Black Madonna and Mary Magdalene and the Mother. And the end of all our exploration shall be to arrive at where we started and know the place for the first time. So welcome, everyone. And now I would like to introduce Banafsheh Sayad, who's been the co-director for many years now of the Chartres Academy, who will introduce Andrew. Thank you, Banafsheh.
Thank you, Jim, and hello to everyone. I'm so happy to be with you today, but I'm also carrying something very grave that I feel I need to share with you because I feel maybe many of you might not know the details because it is something that is invisible largely in the Western media. And this is something that is deeply related to the path we're walking together with Mary Magdalene. What has been happening in my country, Iran, over the past month has been truly unprecedented in the history, in the recent modern history of the whole world, the level of violence and repression. Only over a few days, more than 50,000 innocent, unarmed protesters and bystanders have been massacred. And even more than this number have been injured, disappeared, imprisoned, mostly under the age of 30, including children and pregnant women. And the killing continues. The medical personnel have been prohibited from administering care to wounded protesters, and those who have administered care have been arrested. Families have been forced to pay for the bullets that have killed their loved ones in order to receive their bodies. And mourning basically has been prohibited, and families are threatened with silence, not to speak about what has happened. And I say these things, I share this with you, not to overwhelm us, but to remind us of our interconnectedness, and that the world that we long to live in, a world rooted in dignity, truth, and compassion, cannot be realized when this level of violence, this level of suffering is unseen and unaddressed. Iran, for many, is a very important place, and the liberation of Iran heralds a profound shift for our whole world toward a world that is more harmonious and balanced and guided by love. As one of the oldest civilizations in the world, as one of the most ancient, Iran has profound gifts and wisdom to share with the world that cannot fully flow when its people live and are imprisoned under this kind of violence and repression, and the land pillaged and mismanaged. As we gather for the time that we will spend together in Chartres during the week of the Assumption of Mary, as Jim mentioned, a time that speaks to ascension and the sanctification of physicality and all of matter. It is very important to remember that ascension is not an escape, but an important way to remain rooted in truth, in love, and in moral clarity, whatever the cost. To me, holding Iran in our awareness is part of this work. And holding the possibility that there can be a liberation of this people, witnessing and listening deeply, holding this possibility in our prayers. I invite this beautiful community to listen deeply and witness what is happening, and hold the possibility of liberation for a nation that is crying out to be seen and to be heard. As Martin Luther King says, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And refusing to turn away from the suffering in our world is central to the path that Mary Magdalene has illuminated, which our beloved Andrew Harvey will speak more of today. Maybe those of you who don't know Andrew, he is a mystic scholar, author of more than 30 books. His most recent book is The Magdalene Revolution, due to come out in 2 days on February 10th. I have been privileged to read this book, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's one of the most important books of our time that really reframes the whole doctrine of Christianity. So I recommend this to you very much. We're also blessed that Andrew will be with us in Chartres as we gather in August, and he will be leading a pilgrimage to the sites associated with Mary Magdalene in Provence. He will be guiding our footsteps in taking our path in the footsteps of Mary Magdalene. following the retreat in Chartres. Andrew, I invite you to join us. The floor is yours.
It's not, start my video. Let's have a look. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, ah, I just want us all to dwell on what Jim and Benafshe have shared with us. Take in the depth of what my beloved and your beloved Benafshe has shared with us. I'm only going to speak for 20 minutes. And in that 20 minutes, I'll only be able to give you a taste of the 5-year birthing process that I've just been through to be able to give you the book that is the most important of my life, the one that I feel most deeply about, the one into which I have poured everything I have learnt on my 50-year mystical journey. I feel I was born to write this book. And before I read you the preface and one particular section, I would ask us all to just bring into the depths of our consciousness whatever image we hold most dear of Mary Magdalene. And on behalf of us all, I would invite us to pledge ourselves to the path of embodied divine love in action. That is the authentic Christ consciousness, the authentic path of love, whatever religion you are in, and the only path that can help us in increasingly horrifying circumstances stay calm, stay joyful, stay loving, stay tenderly revolutionary, stay confident in the deepest part of ourselves. But terrible though these situations are, a new world, a new humanity is coming by the only way it can, through the convulsions of a massive global dark night. And on behalf of us all, I just want to say to Jim, bless you, my beloved brother, for the absolutely extraordinary heroism you've shown in leading us all these years. Bless you for your belief, your faith, your kindness, and above all, for something that I know to be essential to your nature, because I've experienced it so many times, your magnanimity, your astonishing capacity to embrace difficulty, tension, and never let go of the essential goal of truth and love. You have shown us what true sacred leadership is. And on behalf of all of us, I want to turn to Benafshe, and I want to say to you, I could not have written this book without our long, profound love. And the reason is because when I first met you, I realized I was meeting the divine woman that I had always longed to meet. I saw in your tenderness, in your majesty, in your strength, in your relentless, quiet commitment to being grounded in truth. I saw what a Magdalenized woman is like. And in the beauty you have, and in the extraordinary beauty of what you're giving to the world in your amazing dance of oneness, and in your book that is going to come out through some glorious synchronicity next month on the dance of oneness. Through that, you show us how beauty and truth can empower us and ground us and begin to divinize us. Thank you. When you danced in Chartres in the labyrinth, I felt Mary Magdalene dancing in you and through you and restoring to the Christ consciousness its missing dimension of divine sensuality, divine beauty of heart, mind, soul, and body offered up in adoration to the One. Your work is destined to transform hundreds of thousands of people. And you know, I will always be there with you, blessing you, thanking you, learning from you, as we all need to do. That first pilgrimage to the south of France that birthed the Chartres Academy was a pilgrimage in which I met Mary Magdalene in a way that I didn't tell anybody about for 20 years because it was too shocking, too overwhelming, too amazing. And it took me 20 years to be able to face the truth of what I'd been shown. And it took me 20 years to do the research, do the inner shadow work, do the inner purification of my own body hatred and sex hatred and fear of love, to be able to be strong enough to stand behind the vision that she then gave me to give to you. So what I would love to do is just to start by reading the preface, and you'll see why. No vision of a being so vast and so multi-layered could ever be definitive. Just as not even the greatest Christian mystics could ever definitively define or describe Jesus. As you will come to see and experience, the revolution of love in action they birth together is an endlessly expanding and unfolding one. This is a book not only for Christians, but for all seekers, lovers of truth, and devotees of divine feminine of every sex and sexuality, religion, or no religion. The image of Mary Magdalene that has burned in my whole being throughout the grueling, terrifying, and marvelous process of creating the Magdalene Revolution is one that I was given through a direct and life-changing experience of her over 20 years ago. I was a co-leader of a pilgrimage to the Divine Feminine in France. We visited Paris, Chartres, Vézelay, the mountain apparition site of La Salette, then came to a sun-drenched Saint-Maximin, the town near the huge cave womb of La Beaume, where tradition maintains Mary Magdalene spent the last 30 years of her extraordinary and heroic love in meditation. On a cloudless Sunday, with 30 other pilgrims from all over the world, I climbed the winding and sometimes steep path up the mountain to the cave, now transformed into a church dedicated to her. I entered the cave. Immediately, a deep and glowing peace and blissful silence descended on me. I had visited caves in Ladakh and the Himalayas, where great enlightened hermits had lived and experienced in them a similar silence and peace, but not so stunningly and richly as on that Sunday afternoon. I remember thinking, only a massive awakening could have left us its gift, so profound a presence. When at last I came out of the cave, I read the official description of what the cave and the Magdalene's sojourn in it symbolized. It rambled on about the Magdalene as a sinner who had devoted the last part of her life to fierce penance and at last, and of course only through the grace of Jesus, achieved salvation. I was thunderstruck and outraged. How could the woman who had been the first to see Jesus resurrected, whom even the most conservative and patriarchal parts of the church had acknowledged as the apostle to the apostles, have gone on to live a life of misery? She had witnessed the greatest single event in human history. How could she, at the end of her astounding life, be anything but groundedly ecstatic? The immense silence that had drenched my whole being in the cave had no trace of anguish in it. Why was the church perpetuating an old, sterile, degrading myth about the woman the Gospels show us Jesus loved and honored so deeply? Still disturbed, I walked down the mountain and across the plain beneath it to the restored old convent my ragtag group was lodged in. Something made me stop and turn around and gaze one last time at the cave entrance. For a few eternal seconds, I saw, with open eyes, Mary Magdalene herself, tall as a tower, her arms outstretched, her face and body and dress pure, burning gold, radiating and enclosed by a mandala of brilliant, piercing, golden light. Nothing could have prepared me for such a revelation, and the awed and ecstatic astonishment it flooded me with. I did not speak of it to anyone until I've written it here. It took me 2 decades of meditation, prayer, and intense study to begin to understand a little of what I had seen, to find the courage to unpack what this vision might mean both for myself and for others and for the world. It is this image of her that is blazing before my eyes right now, that I kept alive before me as I sculpted this book And it is this vision that has kept me alive through all the horrors and sufferings that have accompanied the creation of this book. Through the grace of this vision and this image of her, I have come to know in the depths of myself what many other lovers of the Magdalene also know. And that is that we are now living in the time of the Pentecost of the Magdalene, when the flames of the Magdalene's unmasked truth and glorious presence are descending to initiate, liberate, and irradiate all of us who are receptive. In the last 30 years, a plethora of brilliant, brave, pioneering books from distinguished male and female mystics, theologians, and visionaries has flooded the market, stirring passionate controversy and often exuberantly contradicting each other, opening up a myriad of approaches to her. Just as in the original Pentecost of the male Christ after Jesus' ascension, when the flames of divine wisdom and love descended to initiate the disciples gathered in an upper room in Jerusalem, so now the flames of the divine feminine, of the female Christ, as Mary Magdalene, are torrentially descending all over the world at this desperate moment to initiate, transform, and transfigure through the union of those two Pentecosts, those two fires, those two loves, to transfigure us. There are two essential lessons I have learned for myself about this Pentecost of the Magdalene that you who are reading this are potentially part of. The first is that the Pentecost of Mary Magdalene as incarnation of the passion, majesty, fierce and tender wisdom of the divine feminine does not erase, negate, or in any way challenge the original miracle. It fulfills and completes its initiation. As the Magdalene Revolution will, I believe, show you, it offers us for the first time, and at a time when it is needed, a comprehensive, all-inclusive, all-empowering, and liberating vision, both transcendent and immanent, of the authentic Christ consciousness revealed forever now as sacred marriage, mirrored and enacted in Jesus and Mary's relationship of the divine masculine and the divine feminine in the Godhead, in the creation, and in us. It is this vision that pervades and illumines the Magdalene Revolution in all of its astounding and constantly evolving applications, not only for our own personal spiritual liberation, but for the evolution of humanity as a whole and of the world The second truth of this Pentecost that I have learned is that this Pentecost of the Magdalene's true human and divine nature is one that both inflames and necessitates all the different visions and approaches to her that are now being offered. Each of us who receives her fire receives it in terms of our own gifts, sexuality, spiritual personality, and unique mission. Each of us who has heard her voice speak in fire from within our own souls and hearts will sing out what we receive in our own unique and transformed voices, empowering those whose nature and needs are akin to ours, and mixing our voices gladly and humbly with all the other unleashed voices in a divine mass of endlessly expanding celebration. The Magdalene Revolution is one of the singing flames of her great Pentecost and this celebration. May it inspire you to become in your heart, life, and work in your own unique and irreplaceable way, a singing flame of the sacred marriage. I wrote that in the early morning of May the 2nd, and it took all the courage and the strength to stand by my book in that way. And I was overjoyed that I'd finally been able to say it, whatever the reactions. The dogs will bark, but the caravan of Mary Magdalene will pass by. What happened after I wrote that sentence? The Magdalene Revolution is one of the singing flames of her great Pentecost and this celebration, is that I went out for breakfast to celebrate the fact that the prophet was now there at last. When I came back 20 minutes later, my condo was burning and everything was destroyed, and the great love of my life, my Mary Magdalene, my baby, my child, was dead. And the one thing that saved my life, and I don't think I would be here, is that Jade had not been burnt to death. She had gone to my bedroom and laid on the bed where she always lived, and she had been asphyxiated. And when I saw her on that bed, so beautiful, so serene, one part of me died. And the other was lit up by the golden fire of the woman I had seen standing out of the cave. And for the next 2 months, I lived in calm, embodied, divine bliss. I could never have imagined anything so brutal or so amazing. And everything for me has changed. I live a completely different life in myself. And I think everyone who knows me well knows that this is not a fantasy. They know I have changed and I'm different, and that I've realized the dream of my life, to become someone who will, in their presence, show the truth of the birth that is coming out of this death in and through the grace of Jesus and Mary. I have a long way to go. There is no end to this journey. This is not the patriarchal enlightenment. This is the endless evolutionary dance of the masculine and feminine, which can produce endlessly new formulations of embodied truth. So here is what I wrote in the last part of the preface, when I could write. All my manuscripts, books, all the small treasures I'd accumulated over decades of pilgrimage and travel were destroyed. One whole life was over. I have been through, as many of you must have, many deaths, losses, and ordeals in my long life. And this has been by far the most devastating. For several days, I did not know whether I would survive it. Losing my possessions and facing potential financial disaster did not disturb me at all. It was losing Jade, my cat, Magdalene, whom I had adored and been adored by, whose perfect beauty, wisdom, and tenderness had filled my life with joy for almost 2 decades. That almost found in unbearable heartbreak and despair. Weeks later, I find myself a different person. I feel both posthumous and completely alive. Shattered beyond repair, but not broken. More convinced than ever of the truth that Mary Magdalene revealed to me to give to you in the Magdalene Revolution, because I'm now not dreaming about it, I'm living it, and more resolute than ever in my passion to serve you and the world with all I am and know, in whatever time is left to me. The whole planet now is burning in the fires of a global dark night. Everyone who is even partially awake knows this. For decades, I've been trying to warn everyone that what is here now was coming, and that for all its devastating reality, this unprecedented dark night is an inevitable, drastic purification and birth canal for a new, embodied, divine humanity. The fires of this night have now destroyed what was my life, but they have not destroyed the eternal love I lived with my beloved. And now I am realizing viscerally they are freeing, expanding, liberating me day by astonishing day to become finally my naked, true, free, unfettered, fearless, outrageous self. In such a global dark night, no one at any spiritual or material level is immune to horror and sometimes intolerable grief and suffering. To pretend you are or might be is a dangerous illusion because it will blind you to the necessity of doing the inner and outer work of uncovering, finally, your true human divine self. And then working, creating, and serving from its calm passion, the birth of a new humanity and a new world out of the ashes of the old, whether you live to see it fully realized or not. Only such intense, vulnerable, bewildering, dangerous, ecstatic work can begin to prepare you for what is already exploding, what is coming, and what is still, even at this late hour in history, possible. Never despair. Never give up. Never stop believing in the mercy and grandeur of the divine and the miracles it will accomplish in you and through you if you surrender to its demands in faith and trust. That is a taste. In this book, I've unfolded what she revealed to me of the entire worldly and transcendent story of their authentic relationship and what it means for us as we, facing this madness, do the work of uniting the true sacred masculine with the true sacred feminine within ourselves, to birth ourselves into a new level of embodied quantum presence, the embodied quantum presence that Banafshe has and helps us enter through her work. From that embodied divine presence, together, we can weather anything. And not only weather anything, through our courage, through our humility, through our passion, through our creativity, through our love for each other. Again, the birth of a new, embodied, unified, just, loving, playful humanity. I will give everything I have for that birth. And I hope you'll all come to Chartres to celebrate with me and with Anine van der Meer, an amazing woman who's produced an extraordinary book called the Magdalene Ascension, which is a must read for everyone, which changed my vision of the last part of her life. And of course, Banafshe. Please get my book. It'll cost you less than a decent breakfast, but it has everything she gave me to give to you. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for those words and that extraordinary reading. I think you took us all to the depth of why we go to Chartres each year and why we adore the Black Madonna and Mary Magdalene. I, I'm profoundly grateful for your presence in my life. It
Me
was
too.
Andrew right when I came in, with whom I became a fast friend and brother that has remained to the present day. So thank you
We've had a
so
wild
much.
dance, but how wonderful! How wonderful! You've been such an inspiration and such a wonderful brother to me and to all of us, Jen. We love you and we bless you and we thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And just while we're taking it all in, everyone, so we have a sense of what's going to happen, we're going to be spending 7 full days in Chartres between the 13th and the 19th of August. And Andrew and Anine Vandermeer will be the principal teachers. Banafshe will be doing sacred movement. I'll be doing my little nuggets in the mornings, and we'll be walking the labyrinth, and we'll be following the procession of the Black Madonna on the Feast of the
Oh,
Assumption. And then when that's over, on the 20th, we journey down to the south of France, to Provence. And there we're going to be joined by Veronique Floyol, whose family has been curating both the body and the tradition of Mary Magdalene for over 300 years. And so
wow.
she and Andrew are going to take us on a very personalized, sacred journey as only someone whose family has been immersed in Mary
Wow.
Magdalene spirituality for 3 centuries will be able to do. So you really don't want to miss this one. This is going to be a journey of a lifetime with people who have immersed themselves in Magdalene spirituality for a lifetime. And so thank you so much, Andrew, for your guidance. We would have never done it had it not been for Andrew's enthusiasm right at the beginning.
That's very sweet of you, but it's not true. What about your crazy enthusiasm, which can move
Well,
mountains with one finger?
well, it is true when you put Andrew and Jim together, you get
Anything can
a
happen.
combustion of irrational exuberance.
There's
Andrew,
nothing irrational. Sorry, darling.
I want to thank you for your moving presentation. So beautiful. Everyone, as you can see in the comments, have been so moved. As someone who knows you for such a long time, as someone who's so close to you, one of my best friends, I can say
You
that
have others? You have other best friends? Now you tell me. Yes. Thank you, darling.
you have truly changed. You really have. Everything, everyone that Andrew was speaking about, I can attest. He's living this. He's absolutely risen from the ashes of the old Andrew. And
Yes.
but
Ready to
I'm
go. Yeah.
I, blessings on Jade's soul, Andrew. I know her.
You love
Oh,
Jade. So she loved
yes,
you. God, she
I love
recognized
Jade.
that there was another empress alive on this earth, which she needed to join with. And you two of you had the most extraordinary relationship. And
Yes,
you're the one who recognized so deeply her Magdalene soul, because she was that
yes.
adoration in embodiment. And she taught me
And
how to adore.
I want to emphasize everyone to get Andrew's book. It's a life-changing book. It's something that everyone needs to read. We all need to read this book and to take it to heart because it's so important for the times we live in. Andrew is giving us a clear guide, really channeled by Mary Magdalene. So I cannot recommend it more. And also to remind everyone that this is probably the last time that we will gather in Chartres in this way, right? And right, Jim? This may be the last time, the last liberal art that is going to be offered up to the risen Madonna. Our retreat is
Oh
called
my,
Madonna Rising.
it's nothing
And
like it.
yes, and we will focus on the path of ascension that Magdalene illuminated. We'll focus on the 8 boughs of the tree that she guides us to ascend at the toward the end of the Gospel of the Beloved Companion. And we will have Andrew and Anine Vandermeer guiding us through this, which is just incredible. So I invite everyone to try to come. Of course, we have limited registrations, Jim, right? We can't accommodate everyone. So act quickly to save your spot.
Anyone can come to Chartres. We have real capacity there, but the post-Chartres pilgrimage with Andrew and Veronique is limited to 25 people. So we want to keep it small and intimate so we can travel together and we can stay together and have the meals in the French cafes together and hold
Who knows
sacred
what's going
space
to happen?
together.
But even in Chartres, I think we have a limited capacity, Jim. We can have everyone.
That's a lot larger, around 100.
But around 100.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, well, listen, before Banavshe gives us our final blessing, Andrew, just share with us any final words that you would like to bring to our attention.
I'd love to just say that this book is not only about Mary Magdalene, it's about him too. It's about Jesus. How can you know him if you don't begin to know the woman who transformed him, accompanied him, taught him, helped him, held him when he was broken? How can we even begin to understand who he is without understanding the woman who was at the center not only of his life, but of his mission? And this restoration of the real human Jesus is not in any way a denigration of the old vision, which has its truth. It's a vast expansion, and it is one that, if you open to it, will change forever and infinitely deepen your love for the amazing man who was the beloved of this amazing woman. And I just want to end with you by talking about a conversation I had with my great teacher, the man who changed my life, Father Pete Griffiths. And I went into his hut and I said, look, I'm getting very fed up with all of this nonsense about Jesus not being sexual. How could he not have been sexual? And Bede said, I'm completely with you. He said, it's all such rubbish. Of course he was sexual. He was human. And then his eyes started twinkling. And he said, but the real question is not whether he was sexual or not, but what kind of sexuality, sublime sexuality, would a man infused by divine presence and divine love? That's the question. And if we can imagine that from the depths of our own glimpses of that, then amazing things are possible. And I asked him, I said, because I was ruthless, a naughty little disciple, I wanted to get everything out of him. I said to him, okay, then that's fun. I love that. Sublime sexuality is great. Yes, I'm looking forward to experiencing it. But could you give me a definition of it at 85? And he said, absolutely. And he said, sublime sexuality is eros and agape, desire and selfless love, fused in adoration of a beloved recognized as a manifestation of the glory of God.
Mm.
Eros and agape, desire and selfless love, fused in adoration of a beloved recognized as a manifestation of the glory of God.
Mm.
There is no greater definition, no more complete definition. And it's one that if we can embrace it, changes everything for. So let's embrace it. We're running out of time. Why not birth the eternal?
Mm. Mm.
Thank you so much, Andrew. In closing, may what is holy within us rise, not away from the world, but fully into it, so as to help uplift the world itself. May our lives become vessels of truth, grounded presence, and love in action. Until next time, so much love to you.
Mm. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Banafshe. Thank you, everyone. See you all in Chartres. Bye for now. Blessings.